Welcome to another, I guess, educational video on Minuteman Theory. I'm Ian.
And I'm Brad. We're out here on the range. We're going to be shooting some black powder rifles today.
So black powder is super interesting. I have a bit of experience with black powder. I used to shoot competitions with the Panhandle Free Trappers when I lived in Sandpoint. So I really got heavy into it, and over the years I've still kept a real big interest in it. But this year, we've actually made the decision that we're going to go out and we're going to try and hunt our deer with muzzle loaders. I think that's kind of brings us back to our roots, a little bit of traditionalism,
Yeah. And deer season just started here in Montana, and so we're going to sight these things in. Hopefully, take you along the process of how to sight in something like this, and maybe just the basics of safety and operation as well.
So the thing with black powder is that, or muzzle loaders, is that it's just basically a tube that's blocked off on one end. So you have, this has a big old metal slug in the back, and it's just a one solid tube, and the projectile goes through. So basically you have to load your powder, your patch, if you're gonna use a patch, and your projectile. Now, with some like this one has an adjustable rear sight. This one has a fixed front sight. His has both fixed front and rear sights. So, in order to zero them in, basically what we have to do is we have to mess with the powder. That's the only thing that we can do. So black powder is weighed in grain weights, but it's actually measured by volume, not by actual grain weight. So 60 grains is a measure of volume, not a measure of weight. So that's the difference between black powder and smokeless powder. Smokeless powder, you're doing it by weight. Black powder, you're doing it by volume. So what you need to do is you need to make those adjustments in your powder volume in order to get it to, so basically all you're trying to do is get the projectile to hit point of aim, point of impact. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm shooting 450 grain slugs. So I'm going to start at about 60 grains of powder, see how well that works, and then work my way up to probably about 70. I know guys are doing 100 grain loads. Yeah, that's not for me. I happen to enjoy my shoulders, and I don't want to turn my musket into my muzzleloader into a pipe bomb. So I'm going to be doing some light loads just because I have such a heavy projectile. What are you looking at doing?
You also have a shorter barrel than
Yes.
me as well, so your rifle's probably lighter.
Yes.
I've got just round ball.
Okay.
And that's what I'm going to be shooting. And I don't know where I'm going to start. I'll probably start at 60. Okay. I know that this barrel is rated up to 100 grains of safe operation, but I'll probably start at 60 and then just go up from there until we get right about whatever.
All right, so we're gonna go over some basics of muzzle loaders. Now, this is a traditional muzzle loader. There's actually a really cool story behind this. I moved to Sandpoint. I made a friend. He was like 95 years old. He'd lived in Sandpoint basically his whole life. The only reason he left was to go fight the Germans, and then he came back. So his son actually gave me this. This was his muzzle loader, and he put a new stock on it because the old stock was destroyed. But anyway, I love this thing. Again, off camera, Brad and I were just having a discussion about history and provenance and why some things are just cooler to have because they have history behind them and they're not the newest, latest, and greatest thing. Synthetic stock, okay? Because like I said, the stock was chewed up. So I went with the synthetic stock. Now, most muzzle loaders all work pretty close to the same. You'll see actually the one difference that you will see is that Brad's muzzle loader has two triggers. Now, what this trigger is this trigger takes up the slack and this trigger fires it. Because if you try and fire it with this trigger alone, it's going to have like a 12 to 15 pound trigger squeeze, which is really hard to overcome. But if you pull this back, it actually takes the slack out, so it's more of a crisp, clean trigger pull. All right, so for back to front, just like everything else, we have the stock, we have the muzzle, okay, we have the barrel, front sight, rear sight, but we also have a loading rod. So that's something that, unless you have a Mosin gun or some old military firearm, that's something you don't traditionally see on newer firearms. The key, okay? So if we pop this key out, muzzle loaders are incredibly, I'll actually probably just leave it. Muzzle loaders are incredibly simple, right? So all you have is this key. What that does is that literally affixes it to the stock. So the key, you'll see a piece of metal that comes down, it'll look like a square or a horseshoe. You put the key in, and that's what locks the stock in, so that there's no movement, okay? this is the lock mechanism. So what this is what does all the majority of the work for you, right? As far as getting that spark in. So what happens is mechanically inside, when you pull the trigger, it allows the hammer to fall on top of the percussion cap. So that's the lock. Now we have the drum. The drum is what directs the hot gases from the cap into the actual load of black powder, into the charge of black powder itself, which allows the ball or projectile to go forward. Basically, this just directs. Then we have the nipple, and then we have caps. So I'll show you here. So you put the caps on it, and what it does is it directs the hot gas into the charge of the powder and sets your projectile off. Then we have the hammer. And guys, that is pretty much it on a muzzleloader. I mean, like I said, they're incredibly simple. I mean, there's not a lot of moving parts at all. And if you have an issue with it, you can diagnose it really quick. We're going to go over some other things that we have that are kind of essential for shooting muzzleloaders, basically. So over here, I have all this stuff in here just because I don't want it to go flying around. But I have actually it's a flintlock. It's a flintlock kit, but there's a couple of pieces in here that I still use. So we have some brushes. We have a little bit of a brush in here. I use this for cleaning out the nipple if I'm having misfire issues. And we have a frizz pan brush. I don't use that, but there's just a couple of things in here that I use. And we have, I don't know what the actual technical term for this is, but basically what I use this to is to make sure that the area between the drum and the charge in powder is completely clear. We have a bullet puller. So lead is so soft that which will probably happen if you shoot muzzleloader a lot, you will forget to put a charge in, and that's always a pain, right? So in order to make these things fire off, you need to have your charge and you need to have your projectile. Now, if you're going to use a patch ball, you're going to need a patch too, but that's not necessary for what we're going to be doing here. So yeah, you'll end up forgetting how to do that, or you'll forget how to put powder in, and you will have to take this, fix it to your ramrod, and unscrew it, or pull your ramrod out, screw this piece into the ball, and yank the ball. It is an absolute pain in the butt. So, but eventually it will happen. It's happened to me. It just happens. Then you have your patch puller. So again, if we're talking right, I had said that if you forget to put your load of powder in, that's what this is for. This is for actually like ripping onto that patch and pulling that patch out. Here we have a cap. It's a cap. It's basically a primer. So you put the caps in here like this. You put it on, and it takes one off and puts it on your nipple. Then lastly, we have a nipple puller. Okay, sometimes you'll have issues with a nipple or whatever. You'll need to pull it out, put a new one in. Sometimes you need to switch nipples around. That's pretty easy. It's basically just a screw. I mean, that's all it is. Then we have our powder measure. So as you can see, like I had said before, black powder is not measured it is not measured in weight. It is measured in volume. So this one goes from 10 grains of powder all the way up to 150. Now, I don't know what muzzleloader you'd be using that uses 150 grains, but if you have one, let me know. I'd like to take a look at it and maybe play with it just a little bit. But yeah, so basically what you do is you say what load you want. So I had said that I was going to start off at 60, so we're going to go ahead and put it right at 60. We're going to tamp it down. I'm going to screw it down. And then you pour the powder into here, and then it's got this little rubber nipple, and you pour it into the muzzleloader itself. Now we have a powder horn. So word of caution with the powder horn: do not ever pour your powder horn directly into your firearm, right, or into your muzzleloader. Black powder and the patches and everything associated create a lot of sparks. So the last thing that you want to be doing is pouring black powder in with still a live ember inside of your barrel, and poof, this goes off in your hand. Okay, black powder is an explosive. So even if it is just in open air, like if you just put it on a piece of paper and you light it on fire, it is still technically an explosive. It does not need any compression whatsoever to explode. So this, if I were to just light the bottom of the stream of this on fire, this would be a hand grenade, and I don't want to lose my hands. So what we want to do is we want to take the powder measure, take it, and I'll actually show you. So we take it, push it downward. We push this lever right here all the way out. Okay, then we shut it. You can see right in there. So that is the actual powder. So what we'll do is take it in here, pour it in, and there you go. Just do that a couple more times and you'll have your 60 grains of, or you know, whatever grainage you plan on using. So black powder is kind of, I'm not going to mess around with that. I'll get a new load when we get ready to actually do it. So then we have our caps, which I already went over. Okay, if you look at this, if you look at that, it says $5.49. Yeah, well, they're about $40 now. Like,
and I've got one that says $3.95.
Yeah. So, yeah. Good luck. If you can find caps at a reasonable price, pick them up. Let me know. Let me know in the comments if you have caps you want to get rid of. So now here's the other interesting part of all this. We have synthetic, or no, we have replica black powder, and then we actually have factual black powder. Some people. So I've heard, and I haven't actually tested this, but I've heard that there is a 20% increase in pressure with synthetic black powders versus original black powders. That's what I've heard. I don't know if that's true. I've never actually tested that. I've never, you know, just something that the people have told me over the years. At this point in the game, trying to get synthetic black powder is way easier than it is to actually get factual black powder. Now this black powder I got a long time ago. I actually worked at a muzzle loader or a black powder store where we specialized in obscure or oddball cartridges, black powder, muzzle loading. Like basically if it was from the American Revolution all the way up until smokeless powder was invented, that was our deal. That was what we specialized in. So I got a lot of good deals, and all this stuff came from them basically, except for the muzzle loader. And you know, I got the employee discount, which was wholesale at the time. But if you're interested, you can go check them out. It's called buffaloarms.com. It's in Ponderay, Idaho. They're actually a really cool company. They got a lot of really neat stuff. They have started to kind of get into consignment with newer firearms. I mean, I've seen some firearms from World War II, but they're not like, you're not going to walk into Buffalo Arms and walk out with an AR-15. I can guarantee you that's not going to happen. You can walk in and walk out with a muzzleloader or a muzzleloading kit or a muzzleloading revolver. But yeah, so that's specifically what they specialize in. Now, in order to handle the black powder, which I did, I had to get a license from the ATF because it was, again, an explosive. So I had to get a special license from the ATF to even mess with the powder. So next thing is patches, okay? So I am running a 54 caliber. I'm running a 54 caliber muzzleloader, okay? So these are 0.530, okay? So that means that there is a tenth of a millimeter.
Tenth of an inch.
Tenth of an inch. Yeah, tenth of an inch difference between the actual ball and the actual rifling of the firearm itself. So that's where we have patches, okay? So you can see that's 0.0010 thick. So that would be a tenth of an inch thick. So what that is when you put the ball on top of the patch, it'll completely seal it. It'll make a good seal. The ball will engage with the rifling, and you'll actually get a decent. You're supposed to get a decent group with it. However, like I said, we're going to try something new. This year, I'm going to be using these. So these are Great Plains buffalo rounds, basically. So it's a mini ball. So what'll happen is when you stuff it down the barrel, it will be a little bit smaller than the diameter of the rifle itself. So, but the back has a conical cutout in it, and when the powder hits the back of the projectile, it flares it out. So those flares will actually engage the rifling and make it spin. So that's kind of where we're not going to be using patches with these. I'm just going to be seeing how well they group. But from the Civil War, that's how they used to do it. They quit using patches. They quit using patches in the Civil War because they had conical bullets or mini balls, whatever you want to call them. And that's what it was. That was kind of the big innovation during the Civil War, was that the projectiles could expand in the back and engage the grooves and lands of the rifling, making them more accurate. Now, with muzzle loaders, I have pushed these out to 100 yards with not really any issues. We had a big buffalo steel target that we would shoot at 100 yards, and that was always a lot of fun here. The tink, you know. So I have no issue shooting these out to 100 yards, but for our purposes, because we're going to be shooting deer, obviously a little bit smaller than buffalo, we're going to be doing 50 yards. We're going to be doing another video where we're actually out camping and we're actually out using these. It's going to add a whole different layer of interesting to hunting this year. All right, so I'm going to show everybody how to load a muzzleloader. So first things first, like I said in the very beginning, we are going to load 60 grains. So we want to verify that says 60, that says 60, okay. So we're going to take our powder horn, we're going to take and we're going to, so this is weird because I'm left-handed, so of course everything's kind of backwards as far as everybody else do it. We're going to take it, open it up, okay, pour it in. The other way that we can do this is we can just open it up and just let it flow in there freely. Okay, so that is, I'll give it a little bit more here. All right. So this is where things get interesting, okay? We're gonna have to kind of point the gun at our face, okay? I know that we'll try and do it as safely as we can, but there are some times where the gun actually ends up in your face. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our powder, pour it down the muzzle. Okay, I'm gonna verify, yep, that is empty. Now we're gonna take our conical bullet. Okay, we're gonna set it right in the top here. Okay, we're gonna take our traditional smack it. Now, if you shoot this a lot, you're gonna run into issues where your hands start to hurt. There's no way around that, and that's just the way that it goes. Wow, this is not wanting to. Huh. Well, why isn't it wanting to go in? There we go. Oh. Jeez Louise. All right. So now we're going to take our ramrod. We're going to slam it all the way down. Okay, so here's kind of a cool trick that I learned when I was shooting with the free trappers. You want to make sure that there is zero distance between the projectile and the powder, okay? No gap whatsoever. If you get a gap, you're going to get a spike in chamber pressure. You're going to either, and you're going to blow your barrel out. So barrel looks like this. If you have a spike in pressure, you could blow it out just like this, okay? So what we want to do is we want to make sure that that projectile is all the way right up against the powder. What we're going to do is we're going to take our ramrod. We're going to ram it home, okay? When it bounces back, like you can see that it makes that bounce, that means that it is as far up against the powder as it's going to go, okay? Take this out, put it back in. There we go. Then we take our cap. Now, right now I have the firearm set to half cock, okay? You've heard the term going off half cock. So, without the cap on, this is full cock. So we pull the trigger, it's gonna go forward, take it back, one, click, that is half cock, okay? We're gonna take our cap, set it on the nipple. There you go. This firearm is ready to fire. That's it, that's all she wrote. I know getting the conical bullet in there at first was kind of a pain, but that's just the way it goes. You know, you just gotta give it a little bit more English, as it were.
All right, you want to fire it?
Sure. Freedom!
That was awesome. Okay, so now we're going to show you how to load this one. It's a little bit different. This one has the set trigger, which we'll show you how to use. But this is the same caliber as Ian's. It's a 54 caliber. And I am going to actually shoot 54 caliber round ball. And as Ian explained earlier, the round ball is slightly smaller than that 54 caliber, and so we're going to use a patch. Now these are, I bought these at the store and they're pre-lubricated. I'll show you. They're pre-lubricated with some sort of lubrication. But you can make your own. I've heard of people just cutting pieces out of linen or old pillowcases and then sticking them in their mouth to get them wet, to lubricate them. Or you can just buy them like this.
Can I just say that I don't recommend that because you are messing with lead and putting stuff in your mouth. That I don't recommend that.
Yeah, you know, I feel like I've drank enough water
Okay.
and breathed in enough vermiculite that it doesn't really matter. But yes, health and safety is important. And instead of using black powder, I'm going to be using the black powder substitute, the Pyrodex. So, got my Pyrodex in my powder horn. Do the same kind of thing. So you can see the powder is in there. And a lot of guys too, if they have this type of powder horn with this long nozzle, is they'll cut it to the right length for the load of their rifle or revolver or whatever. And I'm just putting 60 grains in here, same as Ian. Whoops. And just like before, pour our charge down there. And that was all of it. Now this is the part that's going to be a little bit different. We're going to take this patch over the top and then our ball, and take our ball starter like that. So similar, but we just have a patch. And then we'll take our ramrod.
There you go.
Just like that. I learned that same trick as well.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah. Paul taught me that. What number cap were you using?
I honestly switch between 10 and 11.
Okay.
Yeah, I can shoot. I could shoot both. 10 gets a super tight waterproof seal, I would say, but 11 works just fine.
Yeah, I just shoot what I can buy.
Yeah,
because they both fit.
Yeah.
So this is a number 11.
Okay. Yeah, that'll work for you. Just in inclement weather.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna put my hearing protection on first. Okay. But the half cock on this is really, really shallow. So I actually have to put this one on full cock to load it. Now, when you have to do it this way, you want to make sure that it's pointed in a safe direction. I'm pointing this down range before I put the cap on, because if that hammer drops by accident, we want to make sure that the rifle goes off in a safe direction. Now, this has the set trigger. So this front trigger is the one that makes things go bang, but right now it's extremely heavy, like way too heavy to reasonably use. So this rear trigger, if you pull this one back, you can see how the front trigger moved. It's now set it on a lighter setting. So now it should only be 2 or 3 pounds. Oh. This is a great opportunity to talk about hang fires. So what happened is I pulled the trigger and my cap went off, but the rifle did not. In this case, you want to keep it pointed down range for a few seconds, because sometimes you get what's called a hang fire, where there's a delay before your powder goes off. And so you don't want to pull the trigger, it goes pop, and you go, oh, what's going on? And then look right down the barrel. It's a good way to, I don't know.
Put a round through your skull.
Yeah. Or through something that you don't want to put a round through. So you keep it pointed down range. Go ahead and get another cap. We'll try this again.
You gotta yell something cool.
Huh?
You gotta yell something cool.
Oh, I do. You're right. Well, throw your tea in the harbor. Oh,
Okay.
That's what I get for not cleaning it.
Yeah, okay. So here is how I fix this.
Okay.
Can I take your rifle and
Yes.
you switch around here? For me personally, and when we go to actually hunt, I will actually use this trick to ensure that that the first shot will go off. So I'll show you what I'm talking about here.
Okay.
We're gonna take our brush here. Yeah.
A little spicy trick.
Yeah, a little spicy. Okay. All right, you can go ahead and load it back up and take the shot.
Okay. Why are you standing so far back?
What's that?
Why are you
So I
standing
can get
so far
I can
away?
get you and the.
Oh, okay.
Then that way, if it goes off, that's on you and on my car.
Oh, I forgot to yell something. Hey, but that worked.
Yes.
Nice.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little trick I picked up. You know.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got my 50 caliber one dialed in. Put two through the same hole here. This one was me, but found out that 80 grains is perfect for mine. Ian, what did you find about yours?
So I found out that I pulled this one, but this is actually two holes, one with a paper patch and one with a conical. I found that 70 grains with the conical is prime. That's what we're gonna go with. So that'll definitely hit a deer, despite my pulling it up just a little bit.
Yeah. We're gonna have fun just blasting away now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
In closing, I guess muzzle loading was a fun way to get out and just have some fun, practice your fundamentals. But unfortunately, it's a lot more expensive than it used to be. So I highly recommend it. The rifles are still cheapish, so if that's something you want to get into, man, go for it. It's a blast.
It's a blast.
Ah. Ah.
Okay.